Want a U.S. bank account but worried about getting rejected? Tired of paying outrageous international wire fees? Wondering if those sketchy-sounding offshore banking services are actually legit? I've been exactly where you are, and after months of research and personally opening 5 U.S. bank accounts plus 2 credit cards as a non-resident, I'm going to show you exactly how to get your own U.S. bank account without the headache. I'm Bernard, and I turn my financial research into fun videos. Here's the thing about U.S. banking as a non-resident. Most people think it's impossible without a social security number or a U.S. address. They end up either paying huge fees for international transfers or falling for risky offshore banking schemes. But there's actually a way to access the U.S. banking system legally and safely, even if you've never set foot in America. The banking landscape for non-residents is changing fast. While traditional banks are becoming more restrictive, new fintech companies are creating innovative solutions. But not all these options are created equal. Some are perfectly legitimate, while others could put your money at serious risk. What you're about to learn will save you thousands in fees and countless hours of frustration. I'm going to reveal the exact steps to open accounts at top U.S. banks, even if you don't have a social security number. You'll also discover the one bank that almost no one talks about, which offers possibly the best account for international clients. Here's what we'll cover: the shocking truth about Puerto Rican banks and why you should probably avoid them even if you're desperate for a U.S. account, a little-known bank that lets you open an account remotely with 0 U.S. presence required even if you've been rejected everywhere else, the legitimate way to get approved for U.S. credit cards without a social security number even if you have no U.S. credit history, how to choose between traditional banks versus fintech solutions based on your specific needs even if you're completely new to U.S. banking, the exact documents and strategies you need to get approved at major U.S. banks, plus the secret to handling rejections like a pro. Let's dive in and get you that U.S. bank account you've been looking for. Let's start with a truth that might surprise you about banking in the U.S. as a non-resident. While most people think your options are limited to big traditional banks, you actually have 3 distinct categories to choose from, and some of them might surprise you. Ever wondered why some people get approved instantly while others get rejected repeatedly? The difference often comes down to choosing the right category. But before we dive into specific banks, you need to understand how I evaluated each option. I looked at 3 crucial factors: ease of opening, safety of your money, and available features. Trust me, this framework will save you from making some expensive mistakes. Think about it. What good is an easy-to-open account if your money isn't properly protected? Let's start with what seems like the perfect solution but comes with a major catch. Imagine a banking system that promises complete U.S. banking access without requiring a social security number, U.S. residency, or even visiting the U.S. Sounds perfect, right? Well, these are Puerto Rico-based banks, and there's something critical you need to know about them. Picture this scenario. A business owner from Germany finds an advertisement for a Puerto Rican bank promising easy US dollar accounts. The application process is smooth, the website looks professional, and everything seems perfect. 3 months later, they try to access their funds, only to discover their account has been frozen, with no clear path to resolution. This isn't a hypothetical situation, it's happening more often than you might think. The 3 main players in Puerto Rico are Zenus Bank, FV Bank, and Strategic Bank. I spent weeks researching these options because they seemed too good to be true. Zenus Bank particularly caught my attention with their impressive marketing and seemingly robust platform. Here's where it gets interesting. Zenus charges $20 monthly, claiming it's because they're a full reserve bank. They say this makes your money safer since they won't lend out your deposits, but here's the shocking part: they don't advertise. Puerto Rican banks aren't regulated like mainland U.S. banks. This is crucial. When you put money in a mainland U.S. bank, you get FDIC insurance covering up to $250,000. If anything happens to the bank, the U.S. government guarantees you'll get your money back. Puerto Rican banks don't have this protection. You're essentially taking a much bigger gamble with your money. Have you ever wondered why these banks offer such easy access while major U.S. banks have stricter requirements? Now you know. Want to know something even more concerning? When I tried to apply for FE Bank's debit card, I discovered something buried in the fine print. Some products and services may not yet be available. Red flag alert. Similarly, Strategic Bank's claim to be 100% safe feels like exactly what an unsafe bank would say. But don't worry, because this is where things get much better. There are several legitimate ways to open a U.S. bank account online, and some of them are surprisingly easy. Ever ask yourself why some people manage to get U.S. accounts without ever visiting America? Here's how they do it. Let's talk about Wise, formerly TransferWise. It's probably the best known option, and for good reason. Sign-up process is smooth, their international transfer fees are incredibly competitive, and their app actually works well. But there's a catch, and it's a big one. Consider this real-world example. An Australian freelancer needs to receive payments from U.S. clients. They open a Wise account thinking it's the same as a regular U.S. bank account. While they can receive money easily, they soon realize they can't access certain banking features they need, like setting up recurring ACH payments or getting a U.S. credit card. Wise isn't technically a bank. It's what's called an electronic money institution. This means your money doesn't get that crucial FDIC insurance we talked about earlier. Now, Wise is excellent for international transfers because they're excellent at that specific service. But for actually storing your money, we can do better. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. If you're running a U.S. business or have a U.S. LLC, you have access to some of the best banking options available. Two standouts are Mercury and Relay Fire, and both offer exceptional service for business accounts. Let me share something fascinating about Mercury that most people miss. They offer FDIC insurance up to $5 million by using what's called a sweep program. They automatically spread your money across multiple banks so that no single bank holds more than the $250,000 insurance limit. That's some serious protection for your money. But have you ever wondered why they can offer such high insurance limits when traditional banks can't? Think about this scenario. A digital nomad starts an e-commerce business through a U.S. LLC. They need a business bank account but can't fly to the U.S. every time there's an issue. This is exactly where Mercury and Relay Fire shine. Their entirely digital platform means you can handle everything from anywhere in the world. But wait, it gets better. Business accounts often come with virtual debit cards and international payment capabilities. Imagine being able to create unlimited virtual cards for different vendors or subscriptions, all while maintaining perfect control over your spending. That's the kind of feature that makes these accounts so valuable for international business owners. Now, if you're looking for personal banking rather than business banking, I've discovered what might be the best kept secret in U.S. banking for non-residents. It's Charles Schwab's international brokerage account, and I'm honestly surprised more people aren't talking about it. Have you ever wondered why some travelers never worry about foreign ATM fees? This is their secret. Here's why this account is a game changer. First, it's from the 11th largest bank in the U.S., so we're talking about a serious institution. But unlike other major banks, they don't require a U.S. address. In fact, this specific account is only available to non-U.S. residents. Picture this. You're traveling through various countries, needing to withdraw cash from local ATMs. With most cards, you'd be paying $5.15 in fees every single time. But with Schwab's debit card, every single one of those fees gets refunded at the end of the month. Think about how much that could save over a year of international travel. But what about traditional U.S. banks? Despite what many people think, it is possible to open accounts with major banks like Chase, Bank of America, or Wells Fargo as a non-resident. You just need to know the unwritten rules. Have you ever wondered why some people get approved easily while others get rejected with the exact same documentation? Here's a strategy that almost nobody talks about. Instead of trying to open an account at any random branch, go to areas with large immigrant populations. Think about it. Banks in these areas deal with international clients every day. They understand the documentation challenges and are more likely to work with non-traditional situations. Consider this example. A student from India tries opening an account at a suburban branch and gets rejected. The same student goes to a branch in an area with a large international community, and the banker not only opens their account, but also helps them understand which documents will work best for their situation. Speaking of documentation, let's address a common concern. What if you don't have a U.S. address? There's a legitimate workaround that many don't know about. Virtual mail services can provide you with a real U.S. street address, not just a P.O. box. These services scan your mail and let you view it online, giving you a legitimate U.S. address for banking purposes. But what about credit cards? This is where things get really interesting. Almost any U.S. bank will give you a credit card if you have one specific thing: An ITIN, Individual Taxpayer Identification Number. It's basically an alternative to a Social Security number. And here's the key part. You don't need to be a U.S. resident to get one. Consider this real situation. A Canadian entrepreneur wants to build U.S. credit history for future business expansion. They obtain an ITIN, start with a secured credit card requiring a $500 deposit, and within 8 months, they qualify for an unsecured card with a $5,000 limit. This isn't just possible, it happens all the time. Here's something most people don't realize about the ITIN process. While getting the number takes 2 or 3 months, you can start using it immediately for banking once approved. You don't have to wait for any additional verification, and unlike what some might tell you, getting an ITIN doesn't create any tax obligations, it's simply an identification number. The beautiful part about this whole system is how it builds on itself. Think of it like building blocks. Your first bank statement becomes proof of address for other accounts, your secured card builds credit history for better cards, and each success makes the next step easier. Have you ever wondered how some non-residents manage to build full U.S. banking relationships without living there? This is exactly how they do it. Let's wrap this up with some action steps. First, ask yourself, what's your primary banking need? If it's personal banking with international access, start with Charles Schwab. Running a business, Mercury or Relay Fire should be your first stop. Want to build credit? Begin the ITIN process now because time is your biggest constraint. Remember, you don't have to limit yourself to just one account. Different banks serve different purposes. Use Wise for international transfers, Schwab for personal banking and travel, and maybe add a traditional U.S. bank account later for additional services. Think about it like building a financial toolkit. Each account serves its own unique purpose. The most important thing is to start with a legitimate, FDIC-insured institution. Don't risk your money with unregulated offshore banks just because they promise an easy solution. Ask yourself, would you rather spend a little more time setting up a secure banking relationship or save time now but risk losing your money later? One final thought. The U.S. banking landscape is constantly evolving, with new options appearing regularly. But the fundamentals we've covered today, FDIC insurance, proper documentation, and building credit history, these principles remain constant. They're your roadmap to successful U.S. banking, no matter what changes come in the future.